The hum of my laptop was the only sound filling my living room as I typed away late into the night. My name is Rebecca Hayes, and at 38 years old, my career had become a balancing act of meetings, presentations, and endless travel. Working as a regional sales director for a software company meant I was constantly on the move, always preparing for the next big pitch. But this upcoming trip to Chicago was different. It wasn't just another meeting. It was a chance to present our new platform to a room filled with potential investors and partners. If this went well, it could push both me and my team to the next level. I should have been excited, but something weighed on me, something beyond the business world. Sitting on my couch across from me was Ethan Carter, a young man of 19 with dark hair that always seemed just a little messy and eyes that carried both youth and the shadow of loss. He wasn't my son, but in many ways, I had been stepping into a role close to it. His mother, Angela Carter, was my best friend since college. When she passed away unexpectedly from a long illness, Ethan was left without her steady guidance. His father had died years earlier in an accident, leaving him essentially on his own. Angela and I had promised each other long ago that if anything happened, we'd be there for one another's families. So here I was, trying to keep that promise. I wasn't his stepmother, nor did I want to replace his parents, but I wanted him to know he wasn't alone in the world. That night, Ethan leaned back on the couch, flipping through channels with little interest. "So, Chicago," he said finally, looking over at me. "You're really gonna go sell your big idea there?" I laughed softly. "It's not just selling an idea, Ethan. It's showing people why this platform matters. Why it could make their work easier." "Sounds intense," he said with a crooked smile. "I've never been on a plane before. Never left the state, actually." I paused, the thought striking me. He'd been through so much in the past year, finishing high school without his mom there, figuring out what to do next. Maybe this trip could give him perspective. A new experience. "Would you like to come with me?" I asked suddenly, the words spilling out before I had a chance to fully think them through. His eyes widened. "For real? On your business trip? Why not? You'd have to keep busy while I'm in meetings, but you could explore the city. Museums, parks, maybe even a ball game if you want. I'll cover the hotel and flight. You just behave." His grin stretched across his face, the first real spark of excitement I'd seen in weeks. "Deal. I'll behave." And so, the plan was set. The morning of our flight, Ethan was practically bouncing with energy as we stood in line at the airport. He kept looking around at the giant windows, the planes outside, and the bustling crowd of travelers. "This is crazy," he said. "I've only ever seen this stuff in movies." "You're going to love it," I replied, hiding my own nerves. Even after years of travel, I still felt uneasy during takeoffs. As the plane roared down the runway, Ethan pressed his face against the window, watching the ground fall away. "Whoa, look at that. The houses look like toys." His enthusiasm was contagious. I found myself smiling more than usual, grateful I'd invited him. Maybe this was exactly what he needed. The flight went smoothly, and a few hours later, we landed in Chicago. The city greeted us with its brisk winds and towering skyline. Ethan's jaw nearly dropped as we stepped out of the cab in front of the hotel. "This place is massive," he said, staring up at the skyscrapers. "Welcome to the Windy City," I said with a chuckle. Our hotel was a modern suite with 2 bedrooms connected by a shared living space. It was comfortable, with a small kitchenette and big windows overlooking the bustling streets below. Ethan threw his bag on the bed and immediately started snapping photos from the window. That first night, we had dinner at a nearby diner, Ethan trying Chicago's famous deep dish pizza for the first time. "This is insane," he said with a mouthful of gooey cheese. "How do people even finish one slice?" Slowly, I teased. The next 2 days passed quickly. I spent my time in meetings, prepping for my big presentation, while Ethan explored the city. Each evening, he returned with stories about what he'd seen: the Navy Pier, the Art Institute, Millennium Park. He brought back little souvenirs too, like postcards and a keychain shaped like the Willis Tower. But everything changed on the 3rd day. That morning, I was in my room reviewing my slides, pacing back and forth as I practiced my pitch. The sound of running water drifted faintly from the bathroom in the shared living space, where Ethan was taking a shower. Suddenly, there was a loud crash. I froze. My heart skipped a beat. "Ethan," I called, my voice sharp with panic. No answer. I rushed to the bathroom door, knocking hard. "Ethan, are you okay?" Still silence. Then a faint groan. Without hesitation, I turned the handle. To my relief, it was unlocked. I pushed the door open, and a wave of steam hit me. Through the fog, I saw Ethan sitting on the tile floor of the shower, leaning against the wall with water pouring over him. His face was pale, his shoulder twisted awkwardly. "Ethan," I gasped, rushing forward. He blinked, disoriented. I slipped, think I hit my shoulder. I quickly shut off the water and grabbed a towel, wrapping it around him. My hands shook as I checked him over. He was conscious, but clearly in pain. "Come on, let's get you out of here," I said, helping him up. He winced but managed to stand with my support. I guided him to the couch in the living room, where he sat down heavily. "You scared me half to death," I muttered, my heart still racing. He gave a weak laugh. "Guess I'm not built for fancy showers." Despite his attempt at humor, I knew this wasn't something to brush off. "We're going to urgent care. Now. At the clinic, the doctor examined Ethan and confirmed it was just a sprain with some bruising, painful but not serious. He recommended a sling, ice, and rest. Relief washed over me like a tide. Back at the hotel that evening, Ethan was quieter than usual. I expected him to be embarrassed, maybe upset about ruining the day. But instead, he surprised me. "Thanks for coming in after me," he said softly. "If you hadn't been there," he trailed off. I shook my head firmly. "Don't even think that way. You're not alone, Ethan. You'll never be alone as long as I'm around." He looked at me then, his eyes glistening with emotion. For the first time, I realized just how heavy his losses had been. Losing both parents before turning 20, it was a weight no one should carry alone. That night, as we sat in the quiet hotel room, something changed between us. The trip was no longer just about my business or his sightseeing. It became about connection, about trust. The next day, despite his sling, Ethan insisted on joining me at one of the more casual networking dinners. He listened intently as I introduced him to colleagues, asked thoughtful questions, and even cracked jokes that made the table laugh. Afterward, as we walked back to the hotel, he said, "I think I know what I want to do now. I want to study business. Maybe marketing. I want to do something that makes me travel, too." I smiled, pride swelling in my chest. "That sounds like a great plan. And I'll help you however I can." By the end of the trip, Ethan carried himself differently, taller, more confident, like someone who had glimpsed a future worth chasing. When we boarded the plane home, he looked out the window again, but this time his expression was different. Less wonder, more determination. "Thanks for bringing me," he said quietly. "I think this trip changed me." "It changed me too," I admitted. And it was true. The business trip had reminded me that success isn't just about presentations or deals, it's about people. About being there when it matters most. Even now, years later, Ethan sometimes calls me from a new city where he's working or studying. And every time, I think back to that hotel shower in Chicago, the accident that could have been so much worse, but instead became the moment that strengthened a bond neither of us expected. It wasn't just a business trip. It was the start of a new chapter, for both of us.